Ceci Leonhardt is a performance artist and founder of Radical Daughters. After studying acting in Berlin, she worked in film, television, and theater until she later became a director and fought against cliched images of women. For more than 8 years, she was a member of the artistic staff of the Center for Political Beauty with productions at the Gorki Theater, the Munich Kammerspiele, and the Wien Woche. She is particularly interested in the political empowerment of young people at the interface between art and reality. You are angry about the situation at your vocational school. Yes, you are political. You think being political means having read a few books. That's nonsense. With Radical Daughters, she inspires people to take action and stand up for democracy, freedom, equality, and brotherhood and sisterhood. The Neon Green Network presents Ceci Leonhardt. Very nice. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be able to speak here today, especially after such inspiring speakers. Thank you so much. And today I would like to talk about courage and inspiration. But of course, I also want to consider that if we watch the news, then of course very often we feel very, very powerless, devoid of courage. And thus I would like to start with something very interactive. You've been sitting for quite a long time. I would like to ask you to ask this following question. How confident do you feel? How optimistic do you feel? Directing your gaze to the world. And I would like to ask you, if you say, yes, we feel very, very optimistic, then please stand up and stretch your arms upwards. If you're not that sure, if you're just a little bit optimistic, please remain seated. And if you feel powerless at the moment, then please go down to the floor. Let's try it all together. 3, 2, 1. And the ones of you who cannot stand up, so please raise your hands or stretch them towards the floor. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So please take a seat again. Big applause for all of you. Thank you so much for your honesty. Thank you so much. So I can't see the slides. I'm clicking like mad, but you can't see them. So this is one slide too far, but it doesn't matter. Not proceeding to action is a privilege. For many years, this has been my motto of sorts. I was an artist at the Center for Political Beauty. It has already been mentioned. Between 2011 and 2019, I did radical political performance art in Austria. What is quite well known is the following. Many thought that we had overthrown the Kurz government, and maybe we have. Who knows? It's still a secret. But on top of that little thing, especially we thought big when it came to our performance art. For example, we did a campaign against the borders surrounding Europe. What we wanted to do is to take a close look at human dignity in Europe and Germany, and that it should also be upheld in the Mediterranean Sea and also outside of Europe. So you can see very well in this picture a monument that was built in order to commemorate all those who had died at the German border. We took this monument in 2019, and then we brought it to the new borders where people are going to die in the future, and this grabbed a lot of headlines. And this kind of attention, we used it in order to take 2 busloads of people to the European external borders in order to reenact how the Iron Curtain fell way back then. And as you might imagine, we went down there, although we knew that we would not be able to do it. But what was important to us was not so much to achieve it, but it was important to proceed to action, to get started, to join forces when it comes to proceeding to action. In 2017, after 9 months of research, a miniature Holocaust monument, which you can see here, was transported to the neighboring garden of the AfD building.
After
Mr. Höcke said in 2020 that the Germans are the only people building a monument of shame. And this was just after the AfD had made it to the German parliament, and this sent shock waves through the political landscape. And for us, this monument was just a little sign, but a sign that there were some kind of resistance of the citizens against this kind of ideology. Not proceeding to action is a privilege. I still believe it because I'm firmly convinced that many people affected by the climate emergency, that many people cannot decide whether they want to proceed to action or not, because this kind of action would mean a threat to their livelihoods. We still maybe can retreat to our private lives, but at the same time, I was always interested in the question, why are there some people who proceed to action and why are there some people who do not proceed to action? And I want to tell something especially to the young people here of the 15-year-old Sassy. You can see her here in this picture. I wasn't like Smilla. When I was 15, I felt super lonely, super powerless, as if I couldn't move anything on this earth. I was born and raised in a little suburb close to Stuttgart, and there were no political people around me apart from my feminist mom, but I didn't find her that cool way back then. Sorry for that, Mom. But apart from that, people played soccer and they got drunk. And the biggest goal was to work at Daimler, at the Daimler factory. And way back then, I discovered hip-hop. I found a community. It had been mentioned several times how important it is to find a community that you can join. And I joined these young people who were that different from the young people I grew up with. They had been affected by violence, for example. But there was a wish that united us. We wanted to express ourselves in art. And if you think that we continued on this pathway and all of a sudden Sassy took 2 stages, then I can tell you that things take a lot more time than it seems. It took 15 years to develop into a participant of the Center for Political Beauty, to find my kind of political expression. Sometimes it takes some time, so please be patient. The Center for Political Beauty has given me something very important, an incredible privilege, and this is attention. I was allowed to stand on stages and to talk about our campaigns, and I realized that these campaigns can trigger something in people. This light bulb moment triggering people to proceed to activism full of humor. It was somehow this David against Goliath moment, so small activists against the big fascists or against the European external borders. Also, the climate emergency is that big, but we need the big narratives telling us, I am small, but I can potentially do it. I can also proceed to action, even if I'm just small and powerless.
Und immer mehr kam in mir und nicht nur in mir der Wunsch auf,
more and more I wanted to do something, to establish something that carries this idea well into the future. And in 2019, together with my colleague Katharina Havenrich, I founded the Radical Daughters. Radical Daughters. So we also bring our ideas to vocational schools, to rural areas, to young people who think that they are apolitical and who do not think that they are people who can change something. And we get these activist ideas to them, and we transform powerlessness and the lack of courage into performance campaigns. These are the Radical Daughters. We work with the methods of performance art. Here you can see them. These are 11 methods that we have been using, and if you feel like it, tomorrow you can experience these campaigns live during a workshop. But in order to come back to the sentence revolving around the privilege, it's a privilege to proceed to action. I have seen very clearly, if we talk to people, well, very often they can't make heads or tails of these things because very often they feel like they lack courage, they feel powerless, and we work with very specific methods, and I would like to introduce these methods briefly to you. The first method refers to the topic of anger. So, if we want to be honest and courageous, then of course we have to acknowledge that very often we feel powerless and as if we are lacking courage, then it can be very helpful to come together in a community and to share these feelings and to admit that at the moment we cannot take to the streets and that at the moment we are lacking courage. So admitting powerlessness and anger. So very often this triggers something. Step by step, we are courageous enough to formulate a very specific thing. What is it that makes us courageous? What is it that makes us angry? What makes us angry? What do we want to change? What do we want to achieve? And to utter this as a collective and to proceed to specific action, this is the first step towards courage. And thirdly, of course, we have to have visions. We talk so frequently about the things that make us powerless, so that in a collective we have to learn to again develop visions, visions of a better world, an idea of a better world, of the things that are worth fighting for. And we do it together in our workshop, and we use performance art. Performance art methods help us to take people on board at an emotional level when it comes to the idea of imagining a better world. And last but not least, so form groups. This is so
Abend ist einer der
important.
schönsten
I
Momente, in
think
denen wir
this
sehen, was
evening we
passiert,
have
wenn wir gemeinsam
experienced
Banden
such
bilden,
a
wenn wir
beautiful
zusammenkommen
moment.
und
We
was für eine
see what
Kraft das ist.
happens
Und bewusst eine Bande zu bilden und auch
when we form
uns
groups
als
very
Bande
consciously
anzuerkennen.
and to
Das ist
acknowledge
wichtig. Und ich
ourselves
glaube,
as
was
groups.
mich
This
am
is so
allermeisten in
important.
letzter Zeit stört, ist
And
das Bashing
what has been
von
ruffling my
unterschiedlichen
feathers is the bashing
Aktivistengruppen
of several
gegeneinander.
activist
Und wie
groups,
wichtig ist es,
groups
die
being
Menschen in den
pitted
Parlamenten
against
zu
each
haben,
other. It's
die
so
sich
very important to
einsetzen
have people
gegen
in
die
parliament
Klimakrise. Oder wie
fighting
wichtig ist es,
against
die
the
Menschen auf
climate
der Straße
emergency.
zu
It's
haben,
so
die die
important to have
Politik vor sich
people taking to the
herantreibt und sagt, wir
street,
müssen was
challenging
verändern. All das
politicians
ist
on a
gleichzeitig
critical
wichtig.
note. We need all these activities.
Ich möchte schließen
I
mit
would like to
diesem
close
Zitat
off my
von Joanna
presentation
Macy
by
und gerne
a
daran
quotation by
erinnern,
Joanna Macy.
dass
I would like to remind you
das,
of
was uns
the
am
fact
mutlosesten machen
that
wird,
the things that will make us most
das Abstumpfen
powerless
unserer eigenen
is
Reaktionen,
becoming less
dass
and
wir
less
nicht mehr
emotional when
reagieren
it comes to our own
auf die
reactions, so
Dinge in
that we
dieser
do not
Welt.
react anymore to the things that are
In
happening
diesem
around
Sinne
us. On this
wünsche ich euch
note,
allen, bleibt
I
laut,
wish you all
bleibt
a
mutig.
strong voice in the
Vielen Dank.
future. Be courageous. Thank
Stay
you
in
very
touch.
much. And stay in
Vielen
touch.
Dank.
Thank you.